Welcome to Reddit Recap. Don't forget to subscribe. Reddit asks, teachers at Reddit, what are your stories of, oh god, this child is a sociopath? So I am not entirely sure if this is sociopath or psychopath, but I had a child that was creepily into my pregnancy for the first 7 months. He wanted to name her, talk to my belly, etc. Then one day it clicked that I would leave and he got really close to me and whispered, "When you come out, I'm going to kill you with a hammer. I hate you." I was shocked. So I took him with me to the office. The LSSP asked why he said that. He replied that it will take her away. I wanted to die so she stays here. He was on a lot of medication for his incredibly violent tendencies. He had tried to kill his sister before by pushing her in front of a bus. His mother kept him locked in his room at night because she had found him standing over her with a knife. Edit. The child was a male. 10 years old. His mother agreed to have him committed after he attempted to kill a police support dog using a pair of scissors. MHMR and CPS were both involved. I haven't seen or heard from the family since I left the district. Not a teacher, and it took me a long time to put 2 and 2 together on this one. But when I was in high school, a long time ago, I sat next to a kid my freshman year in science class. Even though we went to separate grade schools, I had sort of known HM for a long time. Anyway, I had lost my ID card early in the year and obtained a new one. Toward the end of the school year, he tapped my arm and said, "Is that your ID card under your desk?" I looked, and sure as heck that was the ID card I had lost. I was shocked that somehow I had not noticed it, especially having gone into that room every day for the school year, and, of course, it later dawned on me that he stole it and put it there. His shit-eating grin should have been a dead giveaway. Anyway, a couple of weeks later he straight up murdered his younger brother. He was tired of all the attention his younger bro got. He hid a butcher knife in his bedroom, lured his younger brother into some roughhousing shenanigans, and when they got to the bedroom he stabbed the younger boy to death. It was statewide news, WI, because my classmate became the first minor to be tried as an adult in the state. Not a teacher, but at my kid's daycare there was a bona fide sociopath in the making. This kid would inflict harm on others with a genuine smile on his face like he was playing, but he was secretly enjoying it. Hitting, biting, punching, kicking, breaking toys, destroying artwork. But very secretive and carefully planned when teachers or parents weren't looking. He was really intelligent and well spoken for his age as well. Yeah. He was asked to leave after a few years and pretty much every parent there was relieved. Anthony was 6. He had violent tendencies towards animals and other children. Severe headaches and a teddy bear containing the ashes of his dead sister. 2 twin 8th grade boys, literal fucking lunatics, threw their dog across their living room and it landed on the edge of the table. They said it was dead but still moving and they buried it. Dude, they buried a live fucking dog. This was confirmed by neighbors and they are now in the appropriate facilities. Messed up times a million. Not a teacher, sorry, but when I was younger, maybe 8, I remember going to some family gathering way out in the country. There were tons of distant relatives there. Great grandparents had 11 kids, and therefore lots of cousins I didn't know. One girl, probably 4 or 5, was scary. All of us kids would try to play with her and she would just act strange. But one thing I really remember was someone was showing us some baby chicks, letting us hold them and pet them. My mother had just explained to us, be very gentle, fear babies, etc, etc. Well, this little girl is holding a baby chick on her palm, looks right into my mom's eyes and just squeezes this chick until its eyes bulge. They stopped her and to my knowledge the chick was fine. But I'll never forget the look in her eyes. Immediately after this happened, her dad scooped her up in his arms and she just looked back at all of us, smiling maniacally. Not a teacher, but my wife is. When she was about 8 months pregnant she had a kid try to kick her stomach, try to stab her with scissors, and threaten to kill her regularly. She's a kindergarten teacher. Not a teacher, but I was in his class when it happened. This was in 7th grade, I think. The teacher asked everybody to turn in their homework. And he asked for an extension because he was absolutely swamped for the last week. The teacher said no. And instead of just being okay with it, this kid picked up a chair and yeeted it across the classroom at the teacher. It hit her on the forehead and she had to get stitches. Kid was expelled. One of my students, 11 years old, pushed a huge Christmas tree over on an elderly man and another small child and laughed hysterically. His reasoning? It's already January 3rd. Christmas is over. I'm a gymnastics coach. This was several years ago, but we were running summer camps that were open to the public. One week I had a 6-year-old boy who threatened to slit my throat because I asked him to wait his turn to do some skill. I taught a 4-year-old boy who actually scared me because I fear what his future will be. I can see him ended up doing some awful things to people. He would try and kiss and hug girls, and when they didn't want to, he'd hold them tightly and try to anyway, even if they loudly protested. I explained that there is no kissing in school, and if someone doesn't want a hug, they absolutely do not have to. I also said that some people don't like hugging. He said, well, I want her to. So she will. He just couldn't understand boundaries of any kind. This is just one tiny example of the things he did. I did refer him as I believe he has autism and he's undergoing assessment now and awaiting a diagnosis, but I worry there's something else there with him. He would also watch other children to see how he should act. For example, a child might be sad and another child comforts them. He would copy this behavior but totally exaggerate it. Like completely over the top, and use it as an excuse to touch others, mainly girls. He never showed any emotion other than anger and jealousy. He had a very scary look in his eyes, and I've never met another child like him. I have a million stories of students who say borderline sociopathic stuff. But the worst thing I've ever heard to date was, I can't be trusted with knives. My mommy hides all knives in the house from me because I've tried to stab everything and everyone. I know if I stab an animal or a person too much they might die. This would mean I'd go to jail, and I don't think I could make it in jail. So I want to find a dead body and stab it over and over again. This way I know I won't get in too much trouble cause the person was already dead. Elementary school. Rich preppy white boy, 11, drew a picture of only black boy, 10, in class. It showed a dead decapitated body with lots and lots of blood and a chainsaw. He then calmly explained to me how he was planning to murder and cut up the other boy, and how he doesn't deserve to have presents for Christmas as he's black and Santa doesn't like black kids. Had to contact the headmaster and parents. Jokes on him. The headmaster was a very cool black lady. First grader threatened to cut my head off with a pair of scissors because I told her she couldn't put a mutilated dead body on her banner. I worked with a student who would fit this description. The stories of the things he did are extensive. One example is that he got up from his seat to throw something away. On his way back, he walked up behind a student who was distracted working on his assignment. Out of the blue, he pushed the working student's head forward and into the desk. He gave him a bloody nose. There had been no previous altercation or source of friction between the two. His parents were divorced and his mother was too afraid of him to have him during the days she had custody. His father would move him frequently from school to school once his behavior got so bad that the school started the process to get him into psychiatric care. A 5-year-old kindergarten student started crying. He didn't want to go in the classroom. His mother told him he had to go anyways. The kid stopped crying, took off his belt, and started whipping his mother. As a teacher, it was the first time I was completely speechless. His sister annoyed him, so he killed her kitten in front of her. Complete and utter lack of remorse. Just didn't see animals as any different from toys. Violence towards animals during childhood is very common in serial killers. This one happened just the other day, and obviously, I'm going to be anonymous about it to protect the child's identity. Let's call her Abby. So, I'm driving a minibus of students home from a basketball practice when suddenly Abby starts screaming. Did that have peanuts in it? I'm allergic to peanuts. She begins hyperventilating and crying and actually makes me pull over so she can get off the bus and throw up. We're about 15 minutes from the school and I'm literally having a panic attack. So I call the principal and ask what should I do? Do we have an EpiPen on hand at the school? Ect. She seems confused and puts Abby's grandmother on, who tells me she wasn't aware her granddaughter, who is claiming she can barely breathe, had any allergies. When we got back to the school I was about ready to faint and the principal brings out her registration paperwork to show me. No listed allergies. She isn't allergic to anything. It was all an act. The hyperventilating, the crying, even the throwing up, was all for attention. Edit. Spelling. I had a student while I was doing my student teaching, 8th grade. He was constantly in trouble. But during the times he was in class, he just stared off with the most vacant look in his eyes. It truly scared me. It was downright creepy. One day he was up at the whiteboard writing some stuff. I think he was correcting sentences with a bunch of other kids who were doing the same thing. I wasn't watching the kids at the board. And all of a sudden I hear this blood-curdling scream and look over. He had brought a hypodermic needle and had stabbed a girl next to him in the leg. He had been holding it in his hand the entire time, just waiting for the opportunity to stick someone. It was, of course, terrible. But the girl turned out okay. The worst part, besides that, was how he laughed when security came to get him. Ugh. I'm shuddering now just thinking about it. I taught a 15-year-old boy who was really creepy. He submitted a creative writing story that was rape fiction in which he graphically described how a white, blonde woman was being raped to corrupt the purity she feigns, which was quite scary as a white, blonde woman to read. When confronted by a vice principal, he started ranting about how he hated all the girls in the class because they were all bitches, even though none listed had ever had an interaction with him, positive or negative. He then wrote me an apology letter where heaps of the lines were aggressively crossed out with, drawn next to them. At last confrontation by a vice principal, he got really aggressive, walked out and punched the school fence several times. Unfortunately he wasn't expelled. That's all for this video. You made it to the end. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing so you know when the next videos are released. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.